Right, y'all, we give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Elohim. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. Pick it up in John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures, and then we think you have eternal life. And there they was testifying me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. Come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. So another come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust? Proverbs 21 and 28. A false witness shall perish. The man that hear speak, he's going to speak victory. Life, that's what he's going to talk. Let's return to Job 30. Where did we stop? Job 30. Job 37 and 7. He seal up the hand of every man. Then you will back. Do you understand what the perfect will of Elohim is? And is it then the beasts go into dens and remain in their places? Out of the south, and the breadth of the waters is straight. Now let's look at frost. And of course, it's literal frost, ice, but it's Karak, right? So you have Kuf, Rosh, and Kai. So you look at how this last atom separates, because it say by the breath of Elohim is Karak given. So breath here in this one here is Neshama, which is the breath of the spirit, breath of Elohim, Nun, Shan, Mim, and Hey. You can get back and you can behold that the Ruach, or how individual who Elohim created you to be. Before we go to Romans 6, I need to revisit and come to mind. Romans chapter 14. Let's look at this here, right? And verse 16. He said, let not then, but he that in these things serve Mashiach is acceptable to Elohim and approved of men. So you see how this last atom separates. This last atom is able to separate by the breath that Elohim gave him, which of course is the Ruach of Elohim, which of course gives you everlasting life. But look at the key component that he told you that the Malkuth of Elohim is. The reign and dominion of the mighty one of Yasharal is in righteousness, shalom. Turn around and you look at it, right? We did. Your righteousness is coming forth by reason of your faith. Now you know that come on, man, ain't no way in the world that junk like that, though, man. At this point, I know full well that junk ain't no doggone brain power, because that junk been doing that junk at 3 different locations. I have no idea what it is. That junk is aggravating. So when you look at shalom, you know what that is. That's peace. There's no peace for the wicked. You know that because there's a matter of chaos that exists within you. That because we had chaos, because we had sin, we had unbelief, and all these. There's no way that the Ruach of Elohim could abide in a chaotic environment. Meaning, it cannot abide where carnality is present, no matter what form it takes on. It cannot abide there. This is why Nehemiah told the people, "You trying to cause me to fear, and therefore sin," because you can't. You're going to transgress against Elohim by not having, while standing in the face of him and saying that he has to. See, it would be no different than what forefathers did when they were in the wilderness. See, when they were getting ready to come into the land, they were not serving Elohim in righteousness and peace and joy and the Ruach. were constant, which caused their carcasses to fall. Because he said, who carcasses fell? But those who did not believe. See, a lot of and talk about, you got to keep these laws, and not realizing that the people who fell in the wilderness didn't fall just for breaking no laws. They fell because they did not believe. Greater than them. See, and then as human beings, we do this to each other. We put an abiding list, a checklist of things that will say, well, I'll yield if the person can do this, this, and this. See, Yahuwah didn't come through and give no list. He just said, you either gonna yield or you're not, because I am Elohim and this is what it is. And you with me or you're not. And most of our forefathers, they stood up and said, yeah, we'll do it. But in their heart, they didn't want to do it. We already talked about that when we looked at Exodus chapter 24. In righteousness and peace and joy in his spirit, I'm doing it right now. You saw the abiding peace that Yahushua served Elohim. You saw the righteousness that he served Elohim with. And even in the midst of about to be kicked, and the righteous and the joy of Elohim in that. I keep referencing it. So come over here to Nehemiah chapter 4. That'll get 8 and 5. Nehemiah 8 and 5. And Ezra opened the book in the sight of all the people, for he was above all the people. And when he opened it, the people stood up. Ezra Baruch Yahuwah, the great Elohim, and all the people answered, Amen, Amen, while lifting up their hands, and they bowed their heads and worshiped Yahuwah with their faces to the ground. Also Yahusha and Benai and Sherebiah, Jamin, Akub, Shabbathiah, Hodiah, Messiah, Kalida, Azariah, Jehozabad, Hanan, Peliah, and the Levites caused the people to understand the Torah, and the people stood in their place. So they read in the book of of the Torah of Elohim distinctly, and gave them sense and caused them to understand the reason. Or not, nor weep. For all the people wept when they heard the words. When they heard the words of the law, then he said unto them, go your way, eat the strength. When we look at what Mashiach endured in order to complete the task, it was because of his joy in Yahuwah. And let's dive in Hebrews chapter 12. It's the same thing that I mentioned, y'all. You were willing on the morrow for it. But it's no different. Like as a wife, you should serve unto the children who were willing, and that they would serve in the household. These are the things that Elohim has prescribed for us to do, and that we ought to do. We don't find things joyful because usually it doesn't get a direct benefit to. We don't feel like we're getting a direct fit from it. I don't take joy in partaking, not understanding that that's a part of your job. Like as a father, you should take joy in instructing your son. That's your son. He's made in your image. He's of yours, the fruit, the seed of your loins. So in instructing him in the way that he ought to go and diligently seeking to out into the world, in order to send him out into the world to instruct his son. And it was a delight of his son to get the instruction. And that's where everything really comes awry at, is that we do not have a delight. There's no, so that's why we don't really have the strength. Man, this junk. That junk is sick. Right? Are you serious right now? All of those things, fear, pain, regret, all of that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Busting bad. I'm gonna stay on the phone. I mean, shoot. I ain't really gonna do it because I'm gonna pause regardless. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna pause regardless. Ain't really nothing I can do but let it wait. Because either way, I ain't gonna keep talking when I see it's up there. So I just wait on it. All right. So plus that uh of joy. You can't have unabiding joy with those things because all of those things are rooted in chaos, and all of those things are fun for you to do it. You can think that you can do it, but you're gonna lie to yourself because you can't. Because there's no way that Elohim is going to accept you. Listen, deficient in areas that you're not even going to realize that you're deficient in, because those things will control you. That's why he says that perfect love casts out fear, because fear have torment. So when we regret, uh, pain, trauma, all that stuff, the root of all of that is going to bring, well, the fruit of all those things altogether is going to be fear. And there's no way that the love of Elohim can be perfected in you because fear exists. See, we just look at fear as just, I'm scared. It will be because it will not allow joy. Because see, joy is abiding. We talked about this previously. This don't make no sense. It's abiding. It's not like happiness is fleeting, because happiness is temporary. Joy is abiding. And where the joy of Elohim is, which is your strength, which is trusting in Yahuwah, which is everlasting strength, with faith, which is a fruit of the Ruach, it will eliminate all of those things. Again, it's by the breath of Elohim. From the breath of Elohim, frost is given. Now you're separated from the last Adam. Nothing. And absolutely nothing. Because I know that he will resurrect me from the dead. So it's the joy of Elohim, and this is Hebrews 12:1, by the way, which will cause everlasting. That's not just like keeping laws. That's following and abiding in his will. In his will. What he has proclaimed and ordained for every man and woman to do. We talked about that months back with the kafas. It has to be a delight. You don't look at it things as a negative. I have to do this. I have to do that. That's not a delight, and that leads to piss poor service. See, with the reasons from Elohim that why, because you don't even appreciate the things that he gives you. We already talked about this. He said, if you ain't been faithful with another man, who's going to commit to you your trust to true riches? It's a lot of things that people who have sought after the living Elohim have not received because they didn't appreciate the little bit that he gave. And if you've been unjust with little, you'll be unjust with much. That's why a lot of people don't get a lot of things, and it can be monetarily. It could be spiritual increases. It can be spiritual increases. Y'all just have to bear with it because I'm going to pause. At this point, that junk ain't no internet. I don't know what that junk is. Let Yahuwah do things as he see fit. But at its unstable playback, it will remove all of those freezes out. Imagine for me, as I'm trying to make a point, or we're reading through something, I have to stop. It really throws off my train of thought. But let Yahuwah be esteemed nonetheless. But Hebrews 12:1. When you understand that what he is wanting us to do, remember in Proverbs 8, it says, his delight was with the sons of men, and I was brought up with him, daily his delight. Daily his delight. Remember what he told Daniel, you're a man greatly beloved. These were men who delighted to fulfill his will. That's it. Remember, he told you to do it with a ready and a willing mind, a delightful heart. Take pleasure in it. Most of us don't take pleasure in it because we feel like, what about me? That is a selfish way to think, to go about your life and always thinking about what about me? What about what I want? What about what I want to do? You don't have the heart of a servant. Because you're a servant to Elohim first. So if you're a servant to Elohim first, how are you going to be able to serve your household? How are you going to be able to serve your brother? How are you going to be able to serve your kids when you're constantly thinking about yourself and not what you can do to maintain the unit? Man and a woman is a unit. The woman shouldn't be thinking about what about me. That's detrimental to unit. You can't walk in unison in that regard because you're going to fight against one another. He already told you this. If Satan be divided against Satan, how can this house stand? A house divided is going to fall. You're not going to be able to stand when you're pulling in two different stuff that they go through is because people are divided, and they're divided because they're self-centered. If it doesn't, they're supposed to serve one another in their capacity and role. The manner of service is different depending on the role. No role is greater than the other. They're complementary because they bring esteem to your Father in heaven, which should be your number one and only concern. If what at the end of the day, that should be your number one concern. Let me fulfill his will, sir. And if we don't have that, then we're in trouble. Hebrews 12:1. Wherefore we're also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which do so easily beset, endure the stay, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of Elohim. For consider him that endures such a contradiction against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your mind. I promise you right now, ain't nothing in life you going through that gonna compare. Ain't nothing going to compare. So there's nothing that should cause you to wane, to faint and become burdened in your mind. Because you're not going for that was set before him. It's the least that we can do on our behalf. So we were in Romans 14. I need to come over here to Romans 6. 6:3. One thing for certain, my patience long. I don't think a lot of people realize how long my patience is, but it's longer than the average man. It might not be the longest of every man on the earth. Romans 6:3. Know you not that Know you not that some of you were immersed in the Yahushua HaMashiach, were immersed into his death? Therefore, we are buried with him by immersion into death. That is like Mashiach was raised up from the dead by the esteem of Abba, even so we shall also walk in newness of life. For we've been planted together in the likeness of death, we shall, and henceforth we should not serve sin. For he that is dead is freed from sin. Now, if we be dead with Mashiach, we believe that we shall also live with him. This is the point. Before you step in that water, you know that, like we talked about before. Matter of fact, let's just go look at it right now. Yahushua son of Noon 24, before I stumble over here to Exodus chapter 13 or 4. But Yahushua son of Noon chapter 20. Because see, this is what Elohim saw. See, the point again, stinking whore. You came across me. One time I coming across him, about knowing him. He said, righteous Abba, the world have not known you. Until this man has manifested his will to you through the message of his son, news of his son, you do not know him. So until you've heard that, you don't know Elohim. Because you'll be like, you don't keep a commandment, you don't know him. Well, you have not been able to say that you have yada, to know and perceive and to see Elohim until you hear the gospel. Remember, we talked about that. Open my eyes to behold wondrous things out of your law. That cannot occur. So they did not know Elohim while they were in Egypt. So they pined away in a lot of things, a lot of oppression, a lot of suffering, a lot of idolatry, a lot of mistakes, and all those things were made. But boy, when this man came through Moses and say, boy, time to go, and brought them through the sea and showed them that I'm going to drown your old way of living so you can live differently, that stuff don't matter no more. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It does not matter. What ends up happening to us is we will stay there. And when I'm talking about stay there, what did your forefather say? What did they say? It was better for us in chastisement and his reproving to purge out what was in you that was contrary to him, that you could serve him acceptably, was too painful for you to endure. So you wanted to revert back to what was comfortable, even though it was destructive. We will revert back to what is comfortable, even if it's detrimental. Let's continue. Yahushua, son of Nun, chapter 24, verse 14. He said, now therefore fear Yahuwah and serve him. And if it seems when we look at flood, we have Nahar, stream, river, underground frame, the enduring life of the highest. You're going to behold the life of Elohim. Cross on the other side of the flood, it was death there. So I say, no longer you're freed from sin, just like you were freed from Egypt. See, come over here to dirty, rotten, bull-faced whore. Deuteronomy. Of all people that are upon the face of the earth, that goes back to greater is he that is in you, the world. I told you this before. You don't have to walk around boasting it. But if the Ruach Elohim is in you, you're greater than any place of the earth. I don't care what he got going on. I don't care what he has accomplished. I don't care what status he has. I don't care how much money he has. Because you have something that can't be quantified in currency. Remember when the man tried to pay for the Ruach, he told you, may your money perish with you. And pray, and may Yahuwah forgive you for the thoughts and intents of your heart that you thought the gift of Elohim could be purchased with money. You know what I'm talking about? Man, look here, man. Tell you something real, man. There's a lot of niggas gonna make some money. That junk don't mean nothing. You already know the parable of Lazarus and the rich man showed you that. He fared sumptuously. But when it come time to dealing with Elohim, Lazarus was greater than him. See, we always looking at how you greater in the eyesight of men. Man, screw all these people who are contrary to the living Elohim. They mean nothing. I could walk up to Bill Gates and look him dead in the face and tell him I'm better than you. And everybody look, he's such and such. I don't care who he is. Let me tell you something, man. I told the boys that before I left from this morning, man, the behavior of a mass majority of men, even worse for men who claim to be servants of Elohim. And they back and forth banter, conversation, debate, whatever you want to call it, about them two wicked niggas on that Instagram screen last night was just downright deplorable, shameful, and sad all at the same time. All at the same time. Two men who were blatantly telling you F your Elohim to your face. Not even say to our face. Let me rephrase that. To his face. Niggas arguing about how much money these niggas got. Why grown men talking about what other money another man got is beyond me. You know what I'm talking about? These people working a dead ritual in your face. And we loving every minute of it. You know what I'm talking about? Whole time, man, you better than this to be able to look them in the face and know that and possibly tell them that if need to be told. Because in the eyesight of Elohim, boy, is but spittle. Jay Jenkins is but spittle in his eyesight. They're degenerates, despicable and abominable in his eyesight. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. They don't got nothing in them. They don't have true riches. They don't have the best garments because they don't have that fine linen, clean and white, which is the righteousness of the saints. But because we're such a downtrodden people and we identify with all things entertainment and athletics, we uphold these people as if they're the bastion, contemptible. You understand? Vile and despicable, not worthy to be beheld from Shamahim. Hard pill for us to swallow. But you remember what the Lord told you, and I ended with this. You are those who justify yourselves among men. But Elohim know your hearts, and that which is highly esteemed among men is an abomination before Elohim. And that's just what it is. And see, that's the thing that caused you to change your perspective. Now, that's even go because I'm just talking about this here. That's neither here nor there with them two niggas. I'm talking about really sitting back, looking at when you're moving around in the world. And when I say the world, not with sinners, I mean in the literal world, literal earth, on their rats, moving around. And you're going to move across people in the context of men hold them in high esteem because of the status and the wealth that they have accumulated. Or you understand that a man who walks with Elohim, a man who is filled with the power of Elohim, is richer and greater than any of those men. But because, especially when you deal with women, because women are attracted to authority and power. That's why a lot of women run to dudes who teach the word or deal with the word. Most of those dudes, that's false power, it's false bravado, it's false strength. It's not really what it is. But the actual power of Elohim, and it showed that through the words of Yahushua, that's not appreciated. It's not cared for. It's not delighted in. And it just shows us the hatred that people have for the living Elohim. For you were the fewest of all people. But because Yahuwah loved you, I feel like I skipped over. Like, hey, oh, I did. I'm tripping. My fault. Because Yahuwah loved you and because he would keep the oath which he the house of bondmen from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. He said he came and got you out this house of bondmen. You've been captured. That's what was on the other side of the flood. Everything that kept you in bondage. So if you've come out on the joy of Elohim, is bondage does not exist because you would have been washed and freed. See how people weren't freed when they came through that water because they didn't believe when they were going. That's why they were continuing to refer back to the bondage, the things that keep you in bondage will not allow you to grow. You cannot grow in the fashion that you desire to grow when you're shackled. And that's what fear does. That's back to red. Goes back to the chaos. And I'm gonna be honest with you, because I seen this prison. I seen this in prison. I seen dudes scared of free. They were scared to get out because they didn't know they didn't know if they would be able to handle the freedom. So they wanted to stay in bondage. That's no different when they were coming up out of Egypt. That's no different with people with pain and all the stuff that they be holding on to. Because once you let it go, you have freedom. And a lot of people are scared of what they'll do with the freedom because you've been locked down for so long, you're scared to go on the other side of the fence. But it's liberating on the other side of the fence because there's nothing holding you down. No COs are telling them people in Galatians, but you're free. And people are scared of freedom because they don't know, they feel like they'll misuse it. They feel like they don't know what to do with it. People are scared of freedom. Yeah, and it's whether mentally, emotionally, or physically, or sexually. I've seen dude, man, there was a dude that I was in the county jail with who went to prison before me. We ended up being in the same prison at Wakala Correctional Institution. He got out and came back before I got out. And when I saw him at Wakala, I had only been in, closing in, only been in there a year and some change. A year to a year. And he had done got out and came back. Oh, bro. When you see dudes going back and forth to jail, what joy being a slave and a servant to the system. But whether it's emotional bondage, fathers and say we ought to go back. Why are you going back? Why are you holding yourself hostage? The perpetrator has left the building. There's nobody standing there with a gun to your head saying you got to stay here. You picked up the gun and put it to your own head and say, I got to stay here. The door wide open. You can walk out. That's why we read that in Acts 12 with Peter. The cell door open, walk out. Why are you staying in jail? You don't have to be there. You can leave and be free. Well, your forefathers seem to get up out of the word for bombing is in bed, by the way. And they say, you know what? Let's stay here. You know what? There's chapter 12. Not 12, I'm sorry, 13. 13 to 17. I praise Allah in the name of Yahweh. You're not in jail. But you got to ask yourself, if the opportunity to walk out the front door is there, why are you staying locked up? Why are you staying a slave and a servant and hate the other? You can't do it. What are you going to serve? Why do you halt between two opinions? Who are you going to serve? You can't serve your spiritual, mental, and emotional bondage and serve Yahuwah at the same time. Because if you serve Yahuwah, you know you're not going to serve your spiritual, mental, and emotional bondage because he would have set you free. Let me tell y'all something before we pro. I'm not coming back in here, boy. I told my mama them before I even left to go to prison. I ain't telling no more dope, boy. I'll sleep up under underpass under Interstate 95, boy. I'm not finna do it. Just for the simple fact of my freedom has been taken from me. My ability to move freely. I'm subjugated to the will of another. I utterly refuse. This will be the first and the last time that I go to the Florida Department of Corrections. I thank the Lord I didn't have anything mentally or emotionally or spiritually holding me, accosting me, and keeping me in some manner of bondage. No anger, no fear, no sickness, no none of that. You know what I'm talking about? Now, if you had life that occur, they be short bursts. You get out, you bond out, or you break out. But at the end of the day, you can't let nothing hold you hostage. You can't let nothing keep you in jail. You're coming back. There ain't gonna be no recidivism rate. I'm not coming back. I'm not reoffending. That's not happening. I'd rather be free. I'd rather be destitute and free. That's the mind that you got to have. You'd rather be destitute and free. Because at the end of the day, that's what baptism is about. It's about freedom. Proverbs 13, Exodus, 13 and 17. It's a short way, but I knew what would happen. So you won't have to see those things so that you could be free. Elohim led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. The sons of Yasharal went up harnessed out of the land of Mizraim with you. And they took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham in the edge of the wilderness. We came here for this. Yahuwah willing, it all makes sense shortly. Yahuwah went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud to lead them by the way and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. Chapter 14. Yahuwah spoke unto Moses, saying, speaking to the sons of Yasharal, that they turn and encamp before Pharaoh Ruth. For Pharaoh will say to the sons of Yasharal, they are entangled in the wilderness. In the land, the wilderness have shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he shall follow. And it was told to the king of Egypt, the people fled, and the heart of the Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this? That we have let Yasharal go from serving us. He made his chariot ready, made ready his chariot, and took his people with him. Let's drop down a bit. The sons of Yasharal cried out unto Yahuwah, and they said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, you've taken us away to die in the wilderness. Wherefore have you dealt with us to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell you in Egypt? Let us alone that we may serve the Egyptians, for it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians. We should die in the wilderness. To live in bondage than to die, be free. And that's what a lot of people do when it comes to serving Yahuwah. They don't want to die to their sins. They don't want to die to their flesh. They don't want to die to their pain. They don't want to die to their fear. They don't want to die to their trauma. They don't want to die to the mistakes. They don't want to die to the world. They in a pillar of a fire by night to lead you and guide you in the way. See, pause. Come to Matthew chapter 3. Three and 11. Not worthy to bear. He shall emerge you with the Ruach HaKodesh fire. He said, and with fire. So now, remember, it tells you in Isaiah chapter 4 that these things will not be purged, but with the Ruach of burning. So why is a fire important? Because that's the fire by night, that Ruach he go. He said if you walk in him, then you'll light, you know where you're going. Well, light is stop the darkness. He already told you this. You're seeking to, when you come through this seat, that this man is going to be your guide to lead you. I'm going to be free regardless. You don't have to hold on to anything that had you. He is there. See, when we hold on, that the bondage has more power to hold me than the power that he has to liberate me. See, our people, you haven't been mended. You haven't been liberated spiritually. So you're going to make the same mistakes that they made if you were actually delivered physically, because you're going to want to go back to what had you in bondage. You heard this gospel and walked away. They walked away because they were scared to be free. They didn't know what they were going to do with that freedom. And that thought of that freedom, I'm telling you, I've seen it where dudes like, well, I don't want to get out. See, dudes be locked up. They ain't drinking. They ain't smoking. So the temptation is not there. So who's to say what you would do? They get back out in that world and they fold the temptation because they really, the opportunity is gone. Whatever, that stuff is gone. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about with Lot's wife. Don't look back. Go is for your perfecting in him. If you are ordained to be a believer of the truth and ordained for everlasting salvation. So every bump in the road is to perfect yourself in him. Again, this is understanding and knowing him. Understanding what this, and this for this. To get me here. If I didn't go do that 5-year bid, I wouldn't be sitting here now. I had to go do that. Because like I said, the word came not too long after that. But it was all the information that I had acquired, all life experiences, all put together to lead to that. And without that experience, it doesn't get me to that. It doesn't get me there. See, I can sit back and say, Yahuwah willing, I hope that would occur. Because we used to talk about that. Like, well, I wish we would have heard this when we were younger. But Yahuwah willing, we would have took it at 16, 17 years old, considering you weren't raised that way. So who's to say? That's arrogant in the ones who killed him. He told them people, you bear witness unto yourselves, you the sons of those who killed the prophets. So we have to check ourselves with that. Because in reality, we don't know what we would have done. We're speaking from this can, because you have a different mindset based off a different set of circumstances and a different set of experiences. And those circumstances and experiences is going to dictate how you receive information. And we don't know if those a different set of circumstances and experiences would have hardened our heart to the point that when they came was to shape you and for you to understand that you need a redeemer and a savior, and you would be willing to humble yourself for it. You had to experience that. Every bad decision, every wrong move, every negative situation, every traumatic experience. And I'm not talking about experiences as far as being traumatic that were caused at the hands of a wicked individual, because that ain't got nothing to do with you. Unfortunately, you had to suffer because some man, and may they receive that full throttle. You know what I'm talking about? Especially if it occurred to you while you were a child. Especially if it occurred during your childhood. You understand? If he doesn't go through the things that he went through, it doesn't happen. You can come back to Exodus 14. If the story's any different, the outcome is different. Verse 12. No, verse 13. Verse 13. And Moses, Egyptians who you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. See, pause. Isaiah chapter 44. Hold on before you do that. Let me read this verse. Verse 14. Let me read. Yahuwah shall fight for you, and you shall hold your shalom. Yahuwah said unto Moses, Ra shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the heart of the Egyptians. They shall follow them, and I will get honor upon Pharaoh, and upon all his hosts, and upon his chariots, and upon his horse. And the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahuwah, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horse. The Malachim and Elohim, which went before the camp of Yasharal, were moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud went up from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Yasharal. It was a cloud of darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that one came not near the other all the night. Now come back over here to 44. Isaiah 4, we don't need 17. 21. Isaiah 44 and 20. Isaiah 44. Thank the Lord. Remember these, O Jacob and Yasharal, for you are my servant. I have formed. And remember that that's Yatsar, right? Yad, Sod, and Rosh. You see the works. This. So I want to come back. I reference it, so I want y'all to come look at it in the previous things that we were discussing. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And I want you to come to 13. His servant. You're his abed. You're his slave. You're his manservant. You're his worshiper. You give reverence and honor to him. See, a lot of people don't want to be his servant because they want reverence and honor to themselves. Somebody I know, man, they were posting that stuff about consciousness, and I laughed within myself. I laugh because I know that they believe that that's some new information. I remember reading that stuff in prison. We had that book, Christian Yoga, Egyptian Yoga. Both of them reference Christ consciousness. I had another book on Sufism, which is the mystical aspect of Islam. I've told y'all this before. Every say nigga nonsense. You know what I'm saying? And they push that Christ consciousness. But it's funny because if we was to say Christ consciousness in the context to the scripture and the epistles, just the mind of Elohim, which would take you back to his word, which is the thing that everyone is trying to escape and flee from. They don't want to have his mind because to have his mind is to relinquish yours. And people don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? They really want to do that. And as I told you before, I was thinking earlier today, again, because I've been thinking about it even before I dealt with the word. It always used to do. Ignorant niggas always talking about they ain't started this slavery as if the word of Yahuwah just popped up when they put you on a slave ship. I hate a stupid nigga like that. Stupid nigga like that need to be flogged, you idiotic fool. Clearly you don't read. It's just popped up out of the blue. When some people put you on a slave ship, you ought to back of Bibles, you dumb bastard. You know what I'm saying? That junk there is infuriating because that's a mind of a lazy man. That's a parrot. That's not a man who's fit to be married or to procreate. You're disgusting, a disgrace. Before you got me off all the way around the board. But everybody always want to pick at the word of Yahuwah. This is when any substance or weight, what they got going on. See, when people begin to nitpick at you and try to find the littlest fault and to try to dissemble everything you got going on, that's because they know you thorough. They know they're good at what you do. And they're trying to find fault in order to besmirch your character and your image and your representation in the eyesight of others. Do that with people who are mediocre or bad or phony. They don't do that for what? It's evident, it shows. These people know Yahuwah is the realist. They know he's the living Elohim. They know that there's a day of judgment. They know there's a day of resurrection of the his flesh, whether good or bad. And they're trying to absolve themselves from the guilt and the condemnation in their own hearts by discrediting the righteousness of the living Elohim. But they should, son Yahushua, be esteemed and praised, and let your heart rejoice that he has opened your minds, your heart, and your soul to the receiving of the words of the living Elohim. Let Elohim be esteemed. The Elohim and Shamahim be esteemed in the name of his only son, Yahushua, that he has opened your heart, your mind, and your soul to the receiving of the words of the living Elohim. Not just know the gospel, if you would, but that you can know him, which of course is a byproduct of the gospel. But you get my point. Blessing from on high to get to know him, to be drawn near to him. And as a woman, you and drawing near to him yourself. You know what I'm saying? See, that's a blessing. And that's not something you take for granted. You don't look at that and overlook that as if that's some light thing, knowing that so many people in the earth do not know him. It is a surely a blessing. We ought to give thanks. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 13. But we are bound to give thanks always to Elohim for you, brethren, beloved of the Lord. Because Elohim hath from the beginning chosen you to salvation through sanctification of the Ruach and whereunto he keep our gospel to the obtaining of the esteem of the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which you have been taught, whether by word or epistle. Now, hold what you've been taught, because you've obeyed the gospel. And you had a belief in the Amunah, in the Amah, in the Aman. You believed in the firmness and the reliance. Because you believed in the reliability of the words of the living Elohim. And you would also know that anyone who was of Elohim, a lot of times you ask people why they leave Yahuwah or why they leave friendships or relationships. A lot of times you ask them, well, what did the person do? What they wanted versus someone actually doing you wrong. Yahuwah has never done anyone wrong, but he doesn't give people what they want when they want it. So they say, I'm just get rid of you. That's why so many times you meet him saying, I'm gonna plead with you face to face. Tell me what wrong, evil. He said, I blotted out as a thick cloud your transgressions, and as a cloud your sins. Return unto me, for I have redeemed you. See, what we didn't even realize is that cloud, when you were coming across the Red Sea, was representative of what in 19. And from that, we can go to Matthew 27. See, we didn't realize that when he was blotting out that, bringing forth that thick cloud on the Egyptians, that was symbolic. Boy, them sins gone, boy. We didn't realize the Malachim Elohim, which went before the camp of Yasharal, removed and went behind them, and the pillar of a cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the Yasharal. It was a cloud of darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that the one could not come near the other all the night. When we look at blotted out in Isaiah 44, 21 or 22, the word is makah, and it means to wipe out or to exterminate. You got mean. But again, we didn't want to be separated from what kept us in bondage so that we could walk in newness of life. Notice that it said that they had light. They had light in the midst of darkness. What is it, John 12, man? Is it John 12? Right. And 35. That boy said, you desire that. Then Yahushua said unto them, yet a little while is the light with you, himself from them. See what ended up happening, right? Is your forefathers, when they were coming about, they didn't realize that. They didn't believe in the light so that they could be the sons of light because they were too caught up and enamored with dark. So I want you to come over here to John 11. John 11 is a 11 and 5. There's a lot of contention with bruise. You know what I'm saying? But what we're looking at is that cloud. And that cloud, in that regard, that cloud was symbolic of wiping out those sins. He wanted you to see that cloud and know that he was wiping out the bondage. He was wiping them out. He was wiping them out. So whatever happened that had you oppressed back there, that junk is gone now between you and them. You got light in the midst of that dark cloud. They don't. Again, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. John 11, 5. Now Yahushua loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When he heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. Then after the disciples, let us go unto Yehuda again. His disciples said unto him, Master, the Yahudim of late sought to stone you, and you go thither again? Yahushua answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumble not, because he see the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumble. Bruce, hear that, boy, 12-hour day starting. You was a dumb nigga, you missed the point. Listen to what the man telling you. He said, if any man walk in the day, he don't fall. He sees light. That's such a sad state of affairs of where we at as an individual group of people. Hold on one second. I won't do like that. Nah. But just think about that. How you know you don't know where you're going when you're living in sin and you're living in unbelief. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're going. Because you're still in bondage. That's why you're walking in darkness. You're an Egyptian. You're a Pharaoh's army. Why? Isaiah 44. I'm going to read 22 again. I have blotted out as a thick cloud your transgression, and as a cloud your sins. And he said, Return unto me. Shoo, you have been gall. Y'all know what that is. You redeemed, the kinsman redeemer. Come on back. Sing, O you heavens, for you who have done it. Shout, you lower parts of the earth. Break forth into singing, you mountains, O forests, and every tree therein. For Yahuwah have redeemed Jacob, but and esteemed himself, and Yasharal. Let's say, if Yahuwah your redeemer, he that formed you from the womb, that stretched forth the heavens alone, that spread abroad the earth by myself. Let's come back to Job 30. Grab Romans chapter 8. That's what we didn't do. We did get Romans 6. Matter of fact, and we need to get Matthew 27. Let's grab Matthew 27 right now and then slide over here to Romans chapter 8. (27) and 45. Matthew 27 and 45. You know what? I think Luke gives a better. Luke 23 and 44. It was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. Our voice before we read Romans 8. Y'all recall we discussed this a long time ago. We're going to go back over it again. This passage is brought out from Psalms 31. Him stating that in Abba, into your hands I commend my ruach is from Psalms 31. So let's go back and look at Psalm 31. I want to bring something back into your mind in regards to the command it is. In you, O Yahuwah, do I put my trust. Let me never be ashamed. Deliver me in your righteousness. House of defense to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. Therefore, for your name's sake, lead me and guide me. Notice what he said, for your name's sake. If you're going to be led and guided by him, Anything that's Elohim is death. See, matter of fact, Paul told us that in 2 Corinthians chapter 7, the sorrow of the world were death. When we find ourselves sorrowful about the things of the world, that brings death, which goes back to what we were talking about or blotted out. You're going to go back to bondage. You're going to go back to what is comfortable. You ain't going to do nothing but stay in jail. Prison door wide open and you ain't going to walk out. That's what we have to sit back and realize. In order for the man to lead and guide you, you go down. That they have laid privily for me, for you are my strength. Into your hand commit my ruach. You have redeemed me, O Yahuwah, my Elohim. Excuse me, O Yahuwah, Elohim of truth. He is the Elohim of a moth. Now remember, right? The word for commit here is pakad. It is to attend to. It is to look after. It is to care for. It is to pay attention to. It is to observe. It is to be visited. But more so than anything, what you look for, cared for. Pay, kuf, and dalit. You know what I'm saying? He's spoken a word that will be life from a sacrifice because he has. When you looked at when Yahushua say, Abba, in your hands I commend my ruach. I know that you care for my life. So I give all my cares and my concerns to you. Trust that Yahuwah has done where you don't trust him. You don't trust yourself to be free. With idolatry, whatever the case may be. Some people got a problem with just being submissive. And I'm not talking about in no woman in this regard. I'm talking about yielding. Because the reason why they don't have a desire to be man, what you worry about that back there for? They ain't got nothing to do with you. Unnatural thing. One of the biggest mistakes that many people make when coming to serve Yahuwah is that when he set you free, because we already know that we're not worthy of being set free. We try to find out what all these reasons why. Why would he free me? Why would he do? Why does it matter why he did it? He did it. Doesn't matter why he did it. He did it. See, we rack our brains. Why me and why me? Don't worry about why you. Give thanks it was you. Because it's somebody who is not. It's somebody who is not. Doesn't matter why. Who cares why? He did. Be thankful and rejoice in it. Run to it. Grab hold on to it. And don't let it go. And give that stuff up. All it's doing is weighing you down. All it's doing is weighing you down. The man say the blessing of Elohim don't bring no sorrow. And a lot of times we look at things and think they blessings of Elohim and they bring us sorrow. So it don't really even be him. And it don't even be worthless. Man, you got to get past all that. Everybody worthless in his eyesight. But yet he saw fit to open up your heart to receive him. That's mercy, grace, and compassion. So accept it. Take it. Because just imagine this here, right? A lot of y'all sit back and think on your life. Imagine if you did not experience the things that you experienced to get you to understand that there is no life without Yahuwah. You would say we were going to be in the word because you just don't know. So we have to go with the likely outcome. That you would be separated from Elohim and that you would be separated from Elohim and serving Elohim in vain. And thinking that everything is cool. You have to think about that. You have to think about that. Because if you don't meet who you meet, if you don't go through what you went through, you don't get to the point where you cry out to this man and we were talking about again. She has to be plain. But pause. Your husband has the abilities that the Ruach uttereth that cannot be comprehended. That this man can hear and understand and intercede on your behalf. And that is a beautiful thing. Because these are things that your spirit grown for that you don't even know it grown for. See, let me show you what I'm talking about. Because see, we good over here at 37 before we get out of here. I definitely don't need to carry that until tomorrow. And if you will see fit, we will not. 87 Romans. Make it 8 and 5, I suppose. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, they that are after the Ruach, the things of the Ruach. For it is not subject to the Torah of Elohim, neither indeed can be. You already know that. When you're dealing with anything that is of the flesh, you can never submit. You'll never be able to do it. You'll never be able to do it. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please Elohim. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach, if so be that the Ruach of Elohim dwell in you. And if any man have not the Ruach of Mashiach, he is none of his. And if Mashiach be in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the Ruach is life because of righteousness. That raised up Yahushua from the dead dwell in you. He that raised up Mashiach from also quicken your mortal body. For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. But if you through the Ruach do mortify, that receive the Ruach of bondage again to fear, but you have received the Ruach of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba. See, that's the thing. He could have been their father coming up out of wilderness. They didn't want to die. They didn't want to die. All you have to do is put that stuff to death and stop carrying it with you. You can't bring unclean things to camp. You got to put them outside the camp. That's what the law tell you to do. You can't bring them dead carcasses and leave them in the camp. You got to take them outside the camp. Elohim dwells here. Tabernacle of witness. You can't have this stuff around here defiling the ground. But it's no different than your inward parts. Able to dwell there because you ain't took that stuff out of the camp. What you keeping it there for? Ain't now one of y'all gonna keep a pile of human excrement in the middle of your living room. You're gonna clean it up and throw it away. Ain't nobody gonna sit back and leave regation in the middle of the floor. You're gonna clean it up and you're gonna clean the area up where it fell at because it's defiled, it's unclean. Ain't nobody gonna leave no dead body in their living room. You're going to remove it. You're not going to leave a menstruous pad in your living room. Well, that's no different than all the things that we hold on the inside. That's what you're doing. You hold and dwell inside the camp because it's unclean there. And he won't come dwell there till you get rid of it. But you'd rather keep it there, hoping he'll come dwell with you anyway. He will not. He's not going to come. And the crazy part is, and I know it's easier said than done, and I know sometimes it seems more difficult, but it's really just as simple as just putting it out. Just putting it out. It is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. Put it out. Just put it out. See, the reason why we don't understand the why is just that simple, that if you put it out, Elohim will come fill you with his presence. And the joy, peace, and love of Elohim wants to really sit back and realize that he will come feel that. He's not going to sit back and watch and know that you tossed away something out and not come through with his presence to magnify the joy and peace in your heart because you trusted in him enough to cast away the things that was keeping him from you. So what type of God you think you got? Romans chapter 8, man, verse 24. We are saved by hope, but hope that is not seen, that is seen is not hope. For what a man see, why yet hope for? It's not hope for what a man see, why do he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then we do with patience. But if we hope for that we see not, then we do with patience. Likewise, the Ruach also help our infirmities, for we know not. And he that searches the hearts know what is the mind of the Ruach, because he make intercession for the saints according to the will of Elohim. And we know all things work together for good to them that love Elohim and to them who are called according to his purpose. And we know that all things work together good for them that love Elohim and to them who are called according to his purpose. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Over whom he did predestinate, them also he called, and whom he called, them also he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also esteemed, which is to make righteous. But notice what he said, that intercession for the saints to the will of Elohim, for the utterings of your own spirit. He said, you don't know what to pray for like you supposed to. But your Ruach is groaning with things that can't even be uttered, and he understands them and intercedes on your behalf and take that to Elohim. And Elohim grants that if it be according to his will. If it be according to his will, he'll grant that. Bring it right to pass. Not a problem. But see, we don't understand that because we don't let go. We didn't want to let Egypt go because we had been accustomed to being in bondage. You know what I'm saying? The same thing, when you're accustomed to being locked up, you don't want to be. You don't want to be free. Man, I ain't gonna do nothing but tell you what the Lord told you to do. Be free. He said, the Son shall make you free. You shall be free indeed. Into the comparison that I received the day I walked out. I don't lie to you, I had them pretty much forgot a mass majority of the things that I experienced within 6 months. Now, of course, I went to dealing with the word because it was behind me. There was nothing to remember. I don't care about what happened. I don't care what happened before that, other than to give wisdom to individuals to not go down that road. I don't care what happened. That stuff is done. That junk is dead. That junk is over with. I do not care. 4 years ago, she was like, "Oh, Rambo." She said, "I remember you. I arrested you, but you're doing this for yourself, this, that, and the third." You know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying? I'm just looking at her. She tripping, but she's really happy. I see it in her eyes. I ain't mocking her. Officers operated. I'm always going to be a felon in them people's eyesight. I'll never be able to escape that. I don't care because it doesn't define me. So I will never let a mistake or error define me. And neither should any of your life. But you should never let it define you. Why do I say that? Because all of us fall short of the esteem of Elohim. And a lot of brews will try to guilt you and shame you when you know the text say, he that is born of Elohim sin not, because you no longer allow sin and ungodliness and unrighteousness to define you. You allow the Son of the living, blessed be his name forever, to define you. You allow Yahushua Shiach to define you. You allow Abba to define you. You don't allow your sins from the past. You don't allow your mistakes from the past to define you. Because Elohim has set you free. So because he set you free, your definition, your meaning could be defined by me now. See, when we were coming up out of Egypt, we was defined by what we went through in Egypt. He said, let me put this cloud between you and them. Let you know you defined by me, they defined by death. Understand, we missed it. We missed it. That he was trying to show you, he had already told you, I put a difference between the Egyptians and Yasharal. Telling you, man, you can't, and you can't. And if somebody else wants to define you by what you've done, that's a them thing. That ain't got nothing to do with you. Yeah, how many police officers pull me over? Yeah, I be like, bro, I ain't gonna sit there and be like, oh man, my last fellow arrested. And on December 2nd, 2004, I'm in 2020, my nigga. Head to a couple, just not in these words. And that's just when they done tried to size me because I'm already knowing, you done already know you know what my record is. No, I'm gonna straighten you about that. Bro, it's 2017, bro. It's 2018, man. What you talking about? What you talking about? Just if it was 2005, bro, I wouldn't argue with you. But it's not. It's not. It's 15 years later. It's 13 years later. I'm not that same nigga. And I'm not in that same point with the same mindset, doing the same things. So don't disrespect me like that. Period. I will not allow you to do it. You can only do that when you're confident and bold in who is in you. Because I'm defined by this, him, as all of you should be. As all of you should be. And when you understand that your meaning is in the son of Elohim, all the other stuff out. That's the purpose of the cloud. Block it out. You weren't in the light then. Come on over here in the light. What? When he told you, right? Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I ain't gonna fear no evil. You got 37. All that coming out of verse 10, man. The breath of Elohim. By the breath of Elohim, frost is given. That Karaf. By his Ruach, that good old frost is given. You know what I mean? That Karaf, that cool. Verse 11, also by watering, he wearied the thick cloud, he scattered his bright cloud. Now, of course, watering is ray. We talk about that's moisture, that's Rosh and Yah, the work of the highest, the work of Yahushua. That's the moisture. 6 and 24. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to travel down the road that our forefathers. That's years or so. You still don't have to be defined by it. Because he say, he that confess, he that covereth his sins shall not prosper, but he that confess and forsake them will have mercy. You can always turn around if you will permit and be, you don't have to stay in nothing. You can always come out. While the mercy is still there, you can always come out. Again, this ties into your faith, into your boldness, into your Yahushua was not there, neither his disciples, and came to Capernaum seeking for Yahushua. And when they found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, why came you hither? Yahushua answered and said, Truly, truly, I say unto you, you seek me, not because you saw the miracles, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perished, but for the meat which endured unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him have Elohim Abba sealed. They said unto him, What shall we do that we might work the works of Elohim? Yahushua answered and said unto them, This is the work of Elohim, that you believe on him whom he. Also by watering, he wearied the thick cloud. If you want that moisture, got to do the works of Yahushua. Just like he told you, if you were Abraham, you do the works of Abraham. Abraham believed, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. Let's look at weary. It's to rock. It's to be weary, to be overburdened. Tet, Rosh, and Kot. So again, if you're burdened, if this man came to you and told you, every one of you that are heavy laden and burdened, come unto me and I'll give you rest. So do you want rest or do you want chaos? See, remember what he told you, he said, in the world you'll have tribulation, but be a good cheer. I've overcome the world. He meant that. I'm sorry. He said he scattered his bright cloud. Now, cloud is Ab, that you know, Ayin and Bat. So you know the sun. You've experienced the sun. He has scattered his brightness. He said he turned round about by his counsels, that they may do whatsoever he commanded them upon the face of the world and the earth. Now, we talked about that on Wednesday as well. That Hafak and Makav, he overthrew, he turned, he changed, and he transformed. That's why I say as many as led by Waka to move you around by his counsel, by his advice, by his purpose, by his tells you to do. And all of these things come through for one common thing, and that's in life without the requisite effort. A lot of us want abiding success in many areas without putting in the work. You're not going to get it. You got a business endeavor that you want to be in, you're not going to reap the fruits of that business without putting in the work. It's not going to happen. You want results in the gym, you're not going to get those. It's not going to be fruitful if you're not putting in the work. You want you to be productive and righteous. It means there's no time for playing. That means you would have to make sacrifices. That means you're going to have to sacrifice things that you like, things that you care to do for the achieving of the goal. That's why so many people are mediocre. That's why so many people are failures and do not achieve the things that they desire to achieve, because you want to have minimal effort but maximum results. That is not how you put in the work. And you have to be diligent, and you have to be willing to make sacrifices, and you have to be committed. And people are not committed to anything that they feel like does not benefit them, and then complain about the results that they're not seeing from the work that they have not done. You can't for being uncommitted. It really exposes you for not really wanting the things that you say that you want, but that you're just talking, and that you're really full of crap. If you exhausted all means and then the success wasn't achieved, people could say, well, you did the best that you could do. You did what you could. But when you haven't exhausted all means, then you're really full of crap. It means you didn't really want it bad enough. You didn't want it bad enough. And the thing that we look at is, as we told you, especially with you would, but you don't get second and third chances to achieve something that you weren't willing to work for the first time. See, one thing about not willing to put in the work, that's being lazy. And being lazy is just disrespectful to anyone who has confidence, care, or belief in you and your ability. It's just complete and total disrespect. You don't, it's just disrespect. It's just disrespect. There's no way around it. And see, Yahuwah's not going to give you half. See, we get it set in our mind, I'll do the work later. I'll do it here. I'll do it there. Because you feel like you have another opportunity to get hold to it. Who told you that? And your life ain't but a vapor. You better do what you need to do today while it's today. Because those if you're going to see tomorrow. Nevertheless, remember we talked about this, right? This bright cloud, this thick cloud, that cloud, right? Leading you by day, leading you by night. Every time it was for correction or for mercy. Let me keep on going, man, because some of the stuff we going to have to work it into tomorrow. Because this thing's tripping. We already at a 2-hour mark, and God knows I couldn't do another 30 minutes of this thing doing what it want to do. But let me get some of these verses, though, out the way. Verse 14 of Job 37. Hearken unto this, O Job, stand still and consider the wondrous works of Elohim. I just want to read to you, stand still again. Ahmad, right? Endure. Take one's stand. Ayin, Meme, and Dalit. Do you know that you can get the Ruach from the works of Elohim? And see, that's what, again, I'm talking about your effort. Because if you're going to put forth the effort and put in the work, then you're going to take your stand and you're going to endure. And you're going to endure because of your patience. See, that's one of the fruits of the Ruach. That's one of the elements of Yahuwah. Y'all already know that many people do not have. I'm not talking about having patience with people who doing you wrong. That's long suffering. Instant gratification, microwave society. You want results tomorrow. When I really, anything that you don't have to work or put effort in for is usually not abiding or enduring and will crumble. Uncomfortable in order to grow. Y'all know that from lifting weights. And when you're talking about being uncomfortable, it's not the pain of something causing you mental, physical, or emotional pain. It's being uncomfortable that you're having to put in work and sacrifice things that you desire for something bigger. And most of us do not want to sacrifice comfort for a greater objective. You know what I'm saying? We're self-centered. This is why we cannot receive what we're being selfish and self-centered is prideful. And that's contrary to his ruach, because he said he give grace unto the humble and they'll yield their own will. That's why he asked them in that parable, which one did the will of his father? The one who said, who was told to work in his vineyard and didn't go, or the one who said, I won't go, didn't go. He was self-centered. That's pride. Hey, I'm gonna go. I don't want to do that. No, I ain't. The one who and humble myself and go put in his work. And go put in this work. Go put in this effort in order to get the fruit of labor. And that's our problem. Nobody wants to work. The word for consider is B'nai, so understand the wondrous works of Elohim. Once you take your stand and endure, you'll begin to understand Elohim. Verse 15. Do you know when Elohim disposed them and caused the light of his cloud to shine? Disposed, soon. Again, this is to appoint. This is to ordain. So this does not mean he got rid of. It says, do you know when Elohim appointed them and caused the light of his cloud to shine? Well, of course you know when he appointed them. Of course you know. He ordained it from the foundation of the world. We already talked about this a few weeks back, the lamb being slain from the foundation of the world. The world for shine is Yahweh. You got Yod, Pei, and Ayin. So guess what? Guess what? Now you know the works or the worship of Elohim's instructions. But let's continue on. Do you know the balancings of the clouds? It's calm, hot, warm, Kat, mean. You're separated by the Ruach. We already read that he'll baptize you with the Ruach and with fire. Now you understand why he's telling you, how are your garments warm? Remember, he said, let your garments always be white. Spread out the sky, which is strong, and as molten looking glass. Teach us what we shall say unto him. For we cannot order our speech by reason of darkness. See, and that goes back to what we just read in Romans 8. He said we can't order our speech by reason of darkness. That's panim, which you know is the word for face, and then koshek for darkness. So we don't even know what to say. We can't arrange and lay in order. That's why I say the Ruach give utterance, because we don't know what to pray for as we are. Now you can get even more of an understanding. Oh, teach me what I should say to him, since you know so much. Shall it be told him that I speak? If a man speak, surely he shall be swallowed up. And now men see not the bright light which is in the clouds, but the wind passed and cleansed them. Fair weather come out of the north, with Elohim his terrible majesty. Touching the Almighty, we cannot find him out. He is excellent in power and in judgment and in plenty of justice. He will not afflict. Men do therefore fear him. He respect not any that are wise in heart. When you look at respect, you have the word ra'ah, which simply could go to meaning look, eyes in their own heart. You think you shrewd and crafty and prudent in your own heart, this man will look right at you. Again, that goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning. In regards to celebrities, famous people, rich people, people of high status, these people wise in heart, this man don't even see him. You don't even see him. We're going to go back over all of those things in greater detail to tie them back with that cloud, and all of you should be familiar with. But if you're not, it's okay. because we're going to make you familiar with it if you will permit. To really sit back and look at it, especially, I want you to think about this verse right here. Do you know the balancings of the clouds, the wondrous works of him which is perfect in knowledge? And also, that was verse 16, and also verse 14. Stand still and consider the wondrous works of Elohim. Take your stand and understand what Elohim has done. Because remember, Yahusha is Elohim. And when you look at it from that aspect, that Yahusha is Elohim, he's your Elohim. Do you understand the works that he made? Do you know the balancings of those clouds and the wondrous works of his that are perfect in knowledge? And of course, you know knowledge is Da'ah in this instance, and that's Elohim's knowledge. That's the knowledge that came from his father. The knowledge which is contained through faith. Hallelujah for Yahushua in the world. I appreciate y'all time. I appreciate y'all patience also, because I know this is a laborious endeavor to deal with this this signal is completely and utterly outside of our control, and we just gonna have to continually endure to get what we need to get to go where we want to go. What you got to do is consider. All you got to do is consider and just wait. Because again, y'all willing, we've got an emergence to do tomorrow. It's all about being free. Everything is about being free. Being free. I say, man, like I really was incarcerated. I can think of one dude right now, Donald Lanier. He just came back to mind. They called him Chewy because he was a hairy white man. You know what I'm saying? He was the barber. Now this when the son came back to mind, hilarious because a Jewish dude, Rosenthal, asked for that man to shave his back. Boy, that little white man snapped. But he was finna get ready to get out. He was terrified. He'd been on work release. Man ran away from work release, man. They found him in the crack house. He didn't hide. He didn't want to get out. When he sat back and he considered he had an opportunity of freedom, he buckled and he recessed in his mind to whatever he went back to convince himself that he wasn't, that he couldn't function as a free man. That's what your forefathers did coming up out of Egypt. They sat back and said, boy, I want to get out. Boy, these guards, boy, they beat us. Boy, I want to get out. I need to get out of here, man. Somebody find out. Elohim heard and have respect unto your cries and say, I'm going to get you out. But then when he began to do the thing to get you out, you complain because you start to look at, do I really want to be free? All I know. And you have to be careful with that you don't end up allowing yourself to let your bondage be all that you know. Because then you're only going to see life through those glasses, through those lenses, through those eyeballs. That's the only way you're going to view yourself and view your life. And it's detrimental. Because you're letting something that ain't got nothing to do with you find you. It doesn't. So then by the time they started coming out, even at that, but you was oppressed though. Anything that causes you any manner, and all you have to do is walk out the cell door. Yahusha told you he has a door that no man can shut. Man, the door, and he's the door, and he's standing right there, wide open. He's like, why this nigga won't walk? But you staying in jail. Man, when you see all these brutes be talking about the sins they be caught up with, and how they feel, I like to say it's all because they just don't want to walk off the door and be free. But you ain't got to be watching porn playing with yourself, sir. You ain't got to stay a liar. You ain't got to stay lustful. You don't have to stay any of those things. You can just easily just walk and leave. Leave that junk at the jailhouse, at the prison. Leave it there. Did he not say that he came to free the captives? He came to set you free. He said, you prisoners of hope, I give you double. And to give you water and food. So stay out. Shalom, Brother Harrison, man. So stay out. I'll be free indeed. The Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. The Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. He said, where the Ruach of the Lord is, there is liberty, freedom. That's what my mind went to. So it's about being free, not free from America. That's what Yahushua came to free you from. Now, of course, on his return, he coming to free you from Philippi. You know, you choose to be in bondage. And then you have to ask yourself, why are you choosing to be locked up? Why are you choosing to be oppressed? Slavery is a choice. Bondage, only you can answer that if that happens to be you. But why are you choosing that? Why are you a bondage to sin? Why are you a bondage to your flesh? Why are you in bondage to the world? Why are you in bondage to that? Why are you in bondage to Pharaoh? Elohim Ben set you free. Why are you in bondage to sin and death? Yahushua Ben set you free. Choose to be locked up. You could choose to be free. The question is, do you want to be free? That's the question. Do you want to be free? And if the answer is no, or you hesitate, nigga, what's wrong with you? Why you want to be locked up? In a cell with another man. And somebody come and tell you to shut a blue door on yourself. And you got to stay in that cell with that man. Put me in the Duval County pretrial detention center. I put myself there. Nobody put me in the Florida Department of Corrections. Nobody put me in Lake Butler. Nobody put me at Gulf Correctional Facility. Nobody put me in Appalachian Road Prison or at work camp, whatever that junk was called. Nobody put me at Jefferson and Wakulla Correctional Institution. Nobody put me in Tallahassee Road Prison. I put myself there in to never be in that place again. I'm not going through it. So then when the word came and said, okay, every sin, every mistake, every error that I ever committed that had me in bondage to death, when somebody can come tell you when to eat, when to sleep, when you can go, where you can go, nigga, you are a failure in life. Ain't no way around that. Dudes like to look at it. I went to jail, I went to prison. Nigga, you failed. Your objective, if you're a criminal, is to stay free. Prison and jail is a sign of failure. You failed at staying free. You did not succeed in the endeavor. You know what I'm saying? So when we look at it, when we coming to be with Elohim, coming to be with Yahushua, is to be free. And if we're in bondage to anything, we are failing in the endeavor because the goal is to be free. The goal is to be free. And sometimes, agree. Sometimes, as harsh as it sounds, it's really just real simple. It's really just simple. Be free. Be free. Not thinking about, boy, I can't go back to jail. You done stacked 6 months, a year, 2 years, and you haven't went against the man. Free. You say, I can't go back to jail. I can't go back to jail because you're putting pressure on yourself. When you put pressure on yourself and you don't really have the mental wherewithal to deal with the pressure, you usually crack and go back to whatever it is that you didn't want back to. But when you've already just made a resolute decision and that you are willing to do the work necessary in accordance to that decision, then you just take one day at a time working. I can't worry about the end. I just know that I've written. Hold on, my G. I see you. The faith don't necessarily have to be there. The faith can be brought forth by hearing the word right then and there on the spot. You necessarily have to have it to be there. I mean, if that's what you're asking, but once it's there, you make because of the faith, you're resolute in the decision because you have an expectation of something that is contrary to what you were in before. So if you're resolute that you desire to be free, which would be opposite from the bondage that you may be presently in, then you're going to do the things necessary to free yourself because you have a hope and expectation of being free. You know that he has the power to free you. And all this, because when the gospel is preached, bald-headed whore. When the gospel of Yahushua HaMashiach is preached, and a man hears it and they believe it, they have made a resolute decision that they want to be free. Free from sin, free from the world, and free from death. And therefore, just live by their faith to do the work necessary to be free. Now, I'm taking that and correlating with natural things of regular everyday life, of the mental, well, except spiritual, mental and emotional bondage. And of course, you have spiritual bondage as well. You know what I'm saying? I say, thank the Lord, none of y'all are in physical bondage, at least none that I'm aware of. So that's a different scenario. So when you sit back and you hear that, you hear the word of faith, you make the resolute decision to be our own mind. It don't be other people. It be our own mind. You know what I mean? I can always remember reading things when I was a jet, man. Like the worst prison to be in is the prison of word. Praise Elohim, man. Damn shot. You know what I'm saying? Word. And see, and a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? And what I'm saying is right. And I'm glad you said that there. And I'm not saying it because that could be part of the work or the process that that person may need to be free. You know what I'm talking about? But the key component in being free is the desire to be free and to do the work immediately to be free. Amen. To do the work immediately to be free. That's what I'm trying to get to. I'm using the natural stuff, but my focus mainly is on the spiritual bondage. But I also know that the mental and emotional bondage plays a role. You know what I'm saying? That's part of the reasons why you confess your sins when you're immersed, because you're confessing the things that had you in bondage and that you are renouncing them in order to be free. That's why you do that. That's why you do that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why you do that. Some people gonna be free when they're not even acknowledging what had them locked up. If you can't even acknowledge what had you locked up, how you gonna correct it? I'm telling you, man, I remember that jump, man. Walked up out that road prison, man. It was my mama, Naisha, and Nell. Lil Buffett was at work, so she couldn't take the trip. They came and got a nigga, man. You know what I'm talking about? I'm like, man, shoot, boy. I ain't even look back. You know what I'm saying? That's real talk. And I ain't know no word then, man. I ain't even look back. Yo. It's like straight up. Like when they gave me the 5 years, because I didn't take 5 years, they gave me 5 years. I thank the Lord for that, because the state wanted me to get 12. They gave me 5 years. I made the decision in the Duval County Courthouse, the old one. Boy, I'm not coming back here. It's over with for me. I'm good. I will never again in my life. I'm standing here shackled up like a real live beast, hand and foot. You understand? Hand and foot. Nigga, this junk is embarrassing and shit. So when I come back around to dealing with the word, and I'm looking at all these things of the world that I may have been, man, I ain't trying to go through that again. I'm gonna be standing here walking hunched over, looking like a pure jackass. Man, I ain't with it. But I'm not coming back to that. It's not even a thought in regard that I'm coming back to. I'm not doing it. And I don't care what I have to endure, and that you're just not gonna do it. I refuse. I refuse. That's when your will becomes greater than external or internal matters. Because at the end of the day, and what stronger will would you have than the will of the living Elohim? Because if once you take on his will becomes your will. And that becomes your strong will, because trusting Yahuwah, for trusting Yahuwah is everlasting strength. That becomes your strong will. The strength of his will is greater than anything that you're going through or dealing with, or it feel good in the moment. But as you already know, once you've been exercised the peaceable fruits of righteousness, come bar, and now you're a partaker of his kadoshness. That's where everything, man. And I was talking to my people about it the other day, man, because I've experienced this here personally, myself. But he tell you in Psalm 77, my soul refused to be comforted. See, you can have time period where soul is heavy, your heart is heavy. And the root, but then something occurs, and it states in Psalm 77, and I would advise any of you to read it on your own time. It tells you, I remember this is my infirmity, and I remember the wonderful works of Elohim. And when you remember that this is your weakness and your problem, but then you begin to consider, we read in Job 37 that you who are willing on the morrow will go into more in-depthly. You begin to consider his word. You begin to understand that praise Yahuwah. Give thanks to the living Elohim, because surely he has comforted my soul. Because our Elohim is good, his mercy endures forever, because you begin to think about his wondrous works, and then you begin to realize my troubles ain't bad. Not because they're not bad, as they're not affecting you, but that our Elohim is stronger and greater than any negative experience in life that we could ever encounter. But the only way that those things could be able to subside is that we would have to come to him. That's what you go to your man for. Because if the wisdom of Elohim is present in them, then they're going to give you a word in due season. But you have to be willing. As if we say that we believe that. But what wisdom are you going to draw from her? In order for you to get past that, you have to go to like-minded men. You can't turn around and be calling people Ak and this, that, that, and the third, and they don't understand that you say, oh, there's a strong defense. Well, if you're not going to which is there to be a strong protection and hedge for you, then how do you expect to be lifted up? Makes no sense. You know, and your man is unto you as unto Yahuwah, then go. And then as a man, you have to give her the ability to lead. You can't look at, oh, this is symbolic. Of course, you got to have discernment, but even if it's symbolic, you cause her to understand why it's folly. Because we done brought folly to Yahuwah, and he let us know. And boy, let me tell you why. Not getting impatient, belligerent, and upset. That's not the way to go about it. Two more to go. We got two more to go. Well, we got one. She's a long way off. She's fresh. She's fresh. Alicia, you ain't too far from the finish line. Alicia, you got a little way. Well, y'all got a lot of children. You know what I'm saying? And we thank Lord for every one of them. That's the beauty of Yahuwah. You know what I'm talking about? All the children. Yeah, man. It's really that simple, man. You know what I'm saying? The love of Elohim from each other. Then you have to be willing to allow. See, I know why, especially like you talking about I know, and the main reason why people don't want to do it is risk. People tend to take risks. You want to change. And that's not how life works, man. You have to be willing to take a risk. And that's with anything. But that's the only thing in life that's not a risk. You don't need to take risks because they scared something gonna fail and they're gonna look stupid. And that's how you end up doing nothing of note. That's why a lot of people goes well, it goes well. CSJ put it once, and I like it all the way to what he put it, a whole lot to lose and nothing to gain, you're still singing. You're steady singing about all that you can lose, and you ain't got nothing to gain from the situation, and you always gonna be in the same situation. And now you could take that and you could deal with that with the word, because he told you he that loses life shall gain it, and he that gains his life shall lose it. Because that's how people live their life. They're looking at, I got a lot to lose and nothing to gain. Can't live your life like that. Unless you content with mediocrity. With y'all this evening after the fact to probably prayerfully make things a little bit more clear on what we were discussing this evening and why we were discussing it. You know what I'm saying? And just gain some understanding. All of us have been in bondage to something at some point in our lives. The number one thing is death. That's why he came to destroy him to have power over death. That is the devil. Mentally in bondage, spiritually in bondage, emotionally in bondage. But our Elohim is greater than any bondage. And we've seen that coming up out of Egypt. We've seen that coming up out of sin and death by the grace and mercy of Yahushua HaMashiach. We've seen that. So I'm saying all this stuff is eating for us to understand. I'll say it again. If the Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Their mouth, their muna, mind will free you. Matter of fact, let me see something. It'll free you. You know what I'm saying? Everybody to understand and get to. It's Kaf Shay. Free, liberty. Kaf Shay. Kot Pay Sean Yard. So you see how the word will separate you and consume your work. And consume the word free a little bit more tomorrow, man. But again, I appreciate your time and your patience through all this buffering the last couple of weeks. I know it makes it very difficult to follow. And I appreciate your patience. I know that can be very, very difficult. I genuinely and sincerely, I'm saying, so stuff don't get broke up and caught up. But I appreciate it. So again, I bless y'all at the house of Elohim in the name of Yahushua, probably whether you're there or not. I can guarantee you that. We got a short window. And when I mean a small window, we got a small window. You know what I'm saying? We got a small window. So, yeah, we got a real, real small window. We got to do what we got to do, make it move out. You know what I'm saying? But again, the Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. For sure, man. Saying to you, brother. Saying to you. You know what I'm saying? Be free, my people. Be free. Be free. Bump what the world talking about. If it's anyone or any thought that's coming into your mind, call remain in bondage. Mashiach and be free. But you who are willing till tomorrow.